So when I was doing this research, um, and yes, it was when I first had it proposed, I go, oh my gosh, a Catholic home, the liturgy, those are two large topics. And so, of course, I'm doing research, and with great humility, and I give all grace, all all the credit to our dear Lord. The tendency for for this topic was to go into certain practices, certain modes of decoration, certain physical aspects, and that's all great and good. But if you go and you start looking at it, you can say to yourself, "Oh my gosh, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. This looks different, that looks different." What we tried to come back, what we didn't try, what we have provided for you is the framework. And so that expression will be authentic to where you're at. If you're in a place where, and we are keenly aware that we are global, and in some places it is like the early Christians, they had to be careful of the situation. So, do you not have a Catholic home? If by contrast, if you should be able to live someplace where you're free to have other sorts of external imagery, no, no, you still have a Catholic home because it becomes right. Christ is the measure, the Eucharist is the source and summit, and so therefore we're going to have certain behaviors that are going to be encouraged, and some are forbidden.
Right.
Just as in public worship. In public worship, some words are right, or they're there to be said, and in some words are not. And all behaviors, actions, speech would have an echo of a type of the source and summit of Christian life. I remember Teresa of Avila gave just a one-off to her sister, saying, every so often, all speech should come back to Christ. All speech should come back to, and it was just a way to make sure we don't trail into gossip or defamation or whatever poor language, right? But it's always nice to take a look at websites, and I sure do have on my stand books from in the past that really helped me to start having a Catholic home, because Sarah's right. It wasn't taught. It wasn't, we had to figure it out. So, in no particular order, well, yeah, I do. I do have a particular order. Let's start with.
Yes, you do.
First, I do. Mary Reed Newland. Let's start with her. The Year and Our Children. That's a perennial favorite. Let's see. Mary Raising Catholic Children is another little sweet one. Holiness for Housewives.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's Elizabeth. What's her name? LeSueur?
Hubert Van Zeller.
Oh, yeah, Hubert Van Zeller. That's his. Sorry. I was thinking Elizabeth LeSueur, but that's the.
That's right. And Please Don't Drink the Holy Water. Susie Lloyd. And these are others. These are the ones that good holy Catholic women, when I was raising my, suggested. And of course, there are websites such as the Boston Catholic Journal. I have a link here, Creating, Maintaining a Traditional Catholic Home, and Quiet Joys, Creating a Catholic Home. So there's, like I said, there's, if you put in Catholic home into your AI or search engine of choice, you'll get a lot. But you need kind of that backdrop of what you're going to do. Otherwise, it won't be authentic or to relevant to where you're at.
Right. And I think that we have to be very cautious and make sure that we don't encourage people to swallow the camel whole. Rome was not built in a day, and your domestic life will not, your liturgical life will not be built in a day. I mean, it took what 1400 years to get from Christ to the Tridentine Council. You know, it takes a long time for authentically good liturgical traditions to be raised up in a home. And that's not to say that you can't find immediately upon looking 100 worthy traditions, and they are all worthy traditions, but you don't have to do all of them. You just have to do some of them well, right? Your children need grounding, and so do you. You need to be grounded in your faith. Practicing, there's a reason why, you know, every profession used to have a practicum, right? Where you were taught to do well the job that you were called to do. And really, for many of us, unfortunately, the job of motherhood was so soundly disparaged when we were growing up. You know, from the mockery. I mean, we before we didn't really see the mockery of motherhood. We just saw its denigration during, you know, and the fact that, oh, it's not nearly as exciting as having a job outside the home, and you know, who needs to be at home with their children when, you know, you could just pay people to educate them or whatever. So consequently, we did not see growing up the good practice of motherhood, right? We did not see people being, you know, as it were, you know, I don't know, really just intense lovers and caretakers of the home, right? And that is really, when you're thinking about your job in the liturgical life, the first job that you have is to make your house a home, right? A place, as I always tell my kids, I've wanted my home to be a place that you run to, not that you run from. Right? And so you think about the positive elements of things that draw you into something. Is your home, and I think that I had said to you that I was going to say that the incense of motherhood is cinnamon, right? Your home should have an aroma. When you walk into a beautiful church, that first scent that hits you, like especially when you go into like a Byzantine or a Maronite church, is the profound aroma of the incense that they use to consecrate the Eucharist, right? It's so beautiful when you walk in that door and that smell hits you, or when you go into an old church and the smell of the honey candles, the beeswax candles, right? There's an aroma that you should create. And I think that there's some element too in our home. There should be, you know, my kids will say sometimes, oh, that smells like grandma's house, right? Like they'll immediately, and it immediately puts them back into, it anchors them. So don't swallow the camel whole. Find something that speaks to you, that speaks to your heart, and that you know that, you know, you're going to be able to make sure that that is shared. Like, it's a great thing to think, oh, you know, we're going to read the Bible in a year. Okay, well, yeah, that's a great thing. But accept the fact that there are going to be limitations, and that the perfect becomes the enemy of the good. And that if you miss 17 days in a row, it doesn't matter. You just start from where you were. Right? Like, I mean, you just go back to the habits. You go back to what you were doing, even if you get off track.
That's exactly right. What you, what I mean, that would contrast to different homes, right? And when you said it smells of cinnamon, and try a Catholic home should smell different and sound different, just like a Catholic church. The good ones sound and smell different.
And
And
I'd also like to point out too, if I could just go along with this, you know, a number of years ago, my husband and I traveled to England. And it was the first time that I had ever gone to Europe, where all of my other prior trips had been to France, which is a Catholic country. So every time that I would go into a church, of course, it's a Catholic church. And inside of every Catholic church, we know is the living, real presence of our Lord, body, blood, soul, and divinity, residing within the Eucharist in the tabernacle, right? So there is always someone home. There is always someone home. And that element of the Eucharist being always present in the heart of the home, in the heart of the church, should resonate profoundly with women to be in the heart of their home. When the child walks through the door, the mother should be there to greet them. It's so important for the child to come in to a living house, a breathing house, one where there is a heart that is beating, waiting to receive them, right? Because it was very profoundly kind of shocking to me when I went into these big cathedrals in England, in London, because it was empty. And you could feel that there was no one home waiting for me to come there and meet him. So that's going to be really that first element when you were talking about that liturgical life. How do we make the Eucharist the source and summit of our liturgical life? Well, one of the ways that we really profoundly have to do it is to make sure that our heart and is beating within the home. And I know that that's kind of a challenging statement to make nowadays when women are being called out of the home to do things. But your children, it's like walking into an empty church. Think about your child walking into your home as though every day were Good Friday.
All right, my friends, we'll pick up with some more ideas in the next episode. Till then, Fide Sriracha.